welcome to TLD Chat on Wednesday. Today is the day that we talk about teams, team building in learning and training. I'm not sure how many of you are currently working on teams or needing to build a team, perhaps, but we're going to talk about all that stuff today. We haven't talked about teams in a while. We've had a packed schedule with guests, and I think it's about time we circle back around and have this conversation because, again, this is one of those practical topics that may not be as sexy as video and Video Friday and as engaging as having a guest on board, but it's important. It's an important part of what we do as training, learning, and professional. We're on teams or managing teams or needing to build a team or needing to figure out how we skill up our team. How do you make the decision of whether or not to skill up your existing team? Or maybe you need to hire new talent, or maybe you need to get contractors. If you do have a team, what about virtual working? And very important topic these days with a lot of, especially around a couple years ago, Yahoo saying they wanted everybody back in the office. And then recently, most recently this year, IBM joining the ranks of companies saying, hey, employees, get your butts back in the office. That happens, and they have good reasons for asking for that, despite the fact that everybody kind of freaks out about it. So it is an interesting topic, to say the least, and I think we should cover that. And that's what we will do today on TLD Chat, the Training, Learning, and Development Chat. But before we jump in to that topic today, let me not forget to share my screen and share all of the goodness that is TLDC.us. Join us by hitting up that website. Go to TLDC.us and the Become a Member link. I'm going to walk you all through this right now. This is what you're going to do. In case you haven't done it yet, I'm looking through to see everybody in the chat in December, and I think I see most of you in there, which is fantastic. So check this out. TLD Chat will always be free. The recordings will always be free, and the podcast will always be free, as well as our newsletter that we send out. But I want everybody to understand and know that there is a significant amount of work that goes into making all four of those things and all of the things that we do here at TLD Chat. And that's value. And that's value that we get. And I do it every single day because I love it. And I love hanging out with you guys. And I love the L&D environments and the work that we do, the creativity, and more than anything, the people. You guys make this job awesome. And so it is labor of love. But each one of these episodes daily, people think I'm crazy for doing it, and maybe I am, but that's okay by me. Making sure these recordings happen, making sure that notes are taken. We have Karen North, who helps us out a ton. Craig Seibert, when he helps us taking notes, fantastic job of helping us out and doing that. And we really, really, really appreciate what they do. This platform, Crowdcast, is another element of the value add proposition. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes to make this happen that some of you just may not be aware of. And that's time and resources to make this stuff work. And I originally thought maybe if we just ask people to donate a couple bucks here and there, that would be a good way for us to just kind of help keep some of these costs manageable, so we can keep bringing you guys this great value, professional development, networking, community, all of that stuff. But I don't necessarily think it didn't work because so many of you reached out and dropped a few bucks in the tip jar every chance you could, which was fantastic, and it was great. But I think this is going to be a lot easier. There were so many of you that just said, you know what, I'd rather just, give you guys a nice lump sum. And so we're talking less than $1 an episode, 75 cents ish. If you went 15 bucks a month as a member, really that's all. And if you're, you might even be able to get reimburse you for that, or you could just pay for the whole entire year and also get the discount conference registration price. So I feel like an infomercial, but I just feel like I need to be clear on what it is that we're trying to do here. I want to be as transparent as we possibly can in what we're doing here at TLDC. This isn't a scam. This isn't something that anybody's trying to do to get rich off it. We're just trying to provide value and really do what we do best and what we really love to, what we enjoy. So anything you guys can do to help us out is always appreciated. And this seems to be the best path to run down. So if you have not had a chance to become a member yet, I would highly encourage you to do so. And it would be much appreciated. And then also, like I mentioned, if you got that discount, if you became a member, you would get the big discount to come to the Training, Learning, and Development Conference in January 29th and 30th. It is fantastic. So be sure to get signed up for the event as well. It is going to be fantastic. It is shaping up wonderfully. I must admit, I have an incredibly difficult time organizing my own personal creativity to build programs. I struggled with it when I was building DevLearn, and I struggle with it here too. And it's only because I'm constantly coming up with new ideas and trying to come up with the absolute best, perfect fit program for you guys. But I think we're getting there. It's always a fluid process. Things are always kind of changing and shifting around. And we're starting to get some great content up on the website. So if you kind of want to see some more detail, or if you have people scratching their heads going, I don't know if I really trust this Brent guy to put on an event for me. I don't know if I really want to sign up yet until I see something. Go ahead and hit up the schedule. You can finally start to see some stuff coming together. There's still a few TBDs, right, left in the schedule, and that's okay. This is just part of how it works. And if you have any questions about it, again, like I always say, you can feel free to reach out to me and talk to me about it. Reach out. We're a community. I'm one of you. Believe it or not, I am actually one of you. Please do not put me up on any sort of pedestal. I do not like that. I like this community because I feel like I'm one of you guys. And, I just always wanted an opportunity to hang out with my colleagues more often, which was why I kind of started doing this stuff back last year when we did it and called it L&D Talk. Seriously, it was as a guy that works from home all the time and I'm not surrounded by colleagues, working from home can get very, very old very quickly. Speaking of teams, right? And so all this live streaming stuff came out. And of course, geeking out on tech the way I do, I decided, you know what, I can use this stuff and I can make my own team, and we can get together every morning and I can start off my day and hang out with people from all over the globe. And so that's how all this stuff started. So I am just one of you guys. And I hope you'll always continue to see me as somebody always looking out for your best interests, because I love the work that you all do, and most of you actually do it better than I ever did. So maybe it's better that I just kind of hang out and talk to you guys about it. It's just one of those things. So anyways, thanks everybody for hanging out and being a part of the community. I'll do my thanking the midway point, but I just want to spend a lot of time guest talking about what we do here and letting you guys know just what's going on here and what we're doing. And thank you so much, Bethany. I appreciate that. I hope you don't feel like you're here just keeping me company. I hope, which is fine, which is great. Actually, I love that. But I hope you're getting some value out of everything that we do too. Here's the other cool thing about doing this kind of stuff is it gives you a great opportunity to just call people up and say, hey, do you want to be a guest on my show? Even though I hate to call this a show, but I tell people all the time, keep myself, how can I call that person and hang out with them more often or get to know what they do a little bit more? And, it makes it a lot easier to just go, hey, hang out and chat with me on my show. People love that. So it's good. It's a team of your own. Kim, you're right. It is. It's like we're one big giant team working to make this this industry, or lack thereof, as AA would say, a better place for all of us to work. So always good stuff. So good team stuff. So as we normally do. So geez, we haven't. Let me lay down for open forum type stuff, right? Any of you that are here in the chat, if you want to go live on screen and share your thoughts, maybe maybe you've got something to say that's a little bit longer than what you want to type into the chat. Just ping me in the chat, or let me know somehow that you'd like to jump in and be a part of the conversation, and I'll make sure to include you in the video. And you don't have to stay here the whole time. If you just want to pop in, make a point, and then pop out, that's one way you can do it as well. Or you can jump in and hang out. I can have up to 3 other people going at the same time. So if we do any sort of screen sharing, I only can have 2 other people in video windows. But then if we need a 3rd, then I just close the screen sharing and we can have myself plus 3. So I'll leave that wide open for you guys as we begin this conversation down this crazy road of teams. So let's start with the usual question when we get running on this teams topic, which is important. Are you currently working on a team? Whether it's whether you're a consultant and you find yourself on a team temporarily, or whether you're working for a corporate or a larger enterprise and this is more of a long-term team that you're a part of, just give it like a yes in the chat window, or a +1, or however you guys like to make a comment there. All right, Tom's on a team. Yes, I do know Tom's on a team. Tom's on a fantastic team, by the way. Tom, if you're up for it, maybe we could throw you in the box and we can do maybe like a review of that we've been talking about, and we can talk about how you're engaging as a team member. You have a kind of a unique situation, and we don't have to go into all the details, and all that kind of stuff, but it might be an interesting conversation. Think about it. Let me know. Paul's on a team. I know Paul's on a team. 2 days in a row, Paul. Good to see you. Hi, Erica. Small team of 3. Okay, fantastic. Okay, Tom, I'll have my people call your people. What do you mean you're not on the TLDC? Of course you are. Oh, officially. Well, you're an honorary team member. How about that? What's the dynamic of the TLDC team? Wow. That's a great question. Luis, maybe you should jump into the window with me. Maybe you and I should have this conversation together. It's very dynamic. Stir of the form. Yeah. We kick it off. The people have been asking to see more of you, Luis, anyways. So, You know, when you were filling in for me, people loved it. A bad hair day. Oh, come on. That's not a good excuse, but all right, we'll take it. A hat. A hat works perfectly. Anyways. All right, no worries. So I can definitely talk about this. So all right, so we're all on team. We've got some small teams going on. We've got some larger teamwork going on. I mentioned earlier about virtual work, and that's a conversation that I know we're going to be having at TLDC 18. So it is it's interesting. How many of you in the chat work virtually? Question number 2. Don't worry, I'm going someplace with all these questions. So there is a point to just questioning everyone right off the bat. Yeah, you know what's funny is that I think something like TLDChat draws in a lot of virtual workers because you're more flexible, right? I mean, you can't, if you're sitting in a cubicle farm, it's harder to put on a headset and have conversations or be watching a video or and being fully engaged. When Anthony says something fun and you start laughing out loud, your coworkers go over the cubicles and wonder what you're doing. So yeah, we know Anthony's a virtual worker working from home. Virtual. Erica's not virtual. Okay, I'm trying to scroll back up here. All right, Bethany's not virtual. All right. Yeah, so it's good. And so yeah, you put on a headset, right? And you listen and you can type into the chat. That's a fantastic use case for how we utilize the Crowdcast platform. Right? It gives everybody that opportunity to talk and jump on video, maybe because you're in a quiet place, and you're comfortable doing that, you can. Otherwise, you can just jump in the chat and still gain a lot of value out of either listening to myself and the guest talk, and then you can respond in the chat to that, or you can respond to your colleagues and friends in the chat window while we're having conversations. So while it might seem a little bit overkill, I would say that this is a new digital literacy. And I know I've talked about digital literacy in the past, and how do we do you work virtually? Would have been a great poll question. Yes, it would have. Had Brent been actually using the tools that are part of Crowdcast, I could have put that in the polls. Exactly. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate that. Yes, speaking of digital literacy, right? True. Right, but this is why we do these things. These are the types of work environments, you might say, that I see as the future of the workplace and being virtual. This kind of stuff, these kinds of conversations, and how you have conversations with team members, with clients, with customers. This becomes sort of the wave of the future, right? We already do, in some cases, digital medicine, where you can utilize this type of tech to talk with your doctor, doesn't matter where you are around the globe. Obviously, we've got a global audience in the US, across the pond in the UK and Scotland, hanging out with us, which is always fantastic. The Australians are still asleep, and that's okay too. They can listen to the recording. Yes, how not to do a call with clients. I think everybody currently is in that mode, the bad hair day mode of how not to how not to do it. Yes, and Anthony's got puppy dogs, so if this ever starts to go off the rails, Anthony, you just jump in and we're just going to show dogs, show cute puppy dogs, and we'll just end there. But that's the other reason why I do this tech, right? This is where digital literacy comes in. And despite my lack of using the polling system and the digital tools at my disposal, we all jump in here and we try to figure out how to make this work. And I know we've had conversations around, when you're having a conversation video to video, it's really hard to look right into the camera like this and talk to you guys because it's weird looking into a lens when you want to be looking at the other guest, them in the eye. When you're looking at them, not actually looking at them in the eye because you're not looking into the camera, because you're looking at their image on the screen. And so each person looks like they're kind of looking off to the left or the right or up or down when they're looking at the other person. So we think we're looking at each other, but we end up not looking at each other. And sometimes that can be, for people that are new jumping in, can feel like that breaks some of the sort of the social contract we have, right, with each other, right? You look people in the eyes, when you're having a conversation, all that kind of, and different like this, and some people get very uncomfortable with that. I know, probably none of you, but I have had experiences where I've been hit up offline by folks upset at how I handled an interview with them, or having them on as a guest because they were looking for more of a one-to-one interview style environment where it's just the two of us, and the chat room just kind of does its thing on the side, and that somebody else is available managing that. And that would have been in the right. If you ask any of the really, really, really good webinar producers, they will tell you that you need to have, somebody managing the tech in the background, managing the chat window, managing, all of the stuff that's going on, and the host or whoever's presenting and having the conversation can then just focus on having that one conversation. But in this case, this is different, right? This is live streaming video, very conversational, where we include the chat. We love having you guys in the chat. So when we have a guest on, I'm often glancing over to the side, seeing what you're doing, and I'm often typing in and responding to the chat while the guest is talking. And when I, in turn, am talking, I don't mind it one bit when the guest is looking over at the chat and maybe responding at the same time. And then, if one of us kind of misses something that the other one said or whatever, we jump back into it, we dial back, we ask, hey, what was that again? Give me a second to recoup. I think that's totally okay. The multitasking, I behind it. I'm totally comfortable. And I know some people think that's where we all need to kind of get a little bit more comfortable in understanding this new social norm, right? In having live streaming conversations and multiple conversations. And don't get this confused with that I'm saying like it's okay to be on your phone at dinner time, which I'm not. However, it is, I think it's very different, right? Unless like on purpose, you're bringing people into dinner that couldn't be there, and you have sort of a group goal of saying, hey, we're going to set up this camera and do like a periscope of dinner so people can hang out with us while we're having dinner. I mean, I don't know, but I think there's cool ways of doing that, and different ways of having these communications. And so to tie all of this back around, so really the long and short of this is this could, and I only say could because it's so new, be a potential new way that teams end up communicating and being together. Geez, yep, we got people jumping into the question area at the same space. Joe. That's excellent. You're doing that just to drive me crazy with digital literacy, right? Yeah, I used Periscope somehow at the conference. Absolutely. Why not, right? We should be periscoping things. I don't know, maybe not just Periscope, but maybe maybe we crowdcast a bunch of the sessions. I don't know if we've really talked through it yet to figure out how we're going to do that, but I absolutely think it's something we should look into and figure out how we make that work and make that content available. Really, so I mean, let's talk about that. It always boils down to the value of meeting face to face and figuring out how you cover all of the costs associated with an event, right? So the prevailing theory is amongst, and I'm not saying this is ours, and that's not, Louise. Prevailing theory in the event industry is, you should never just live stream all of your content because then nobody would show up. Everybody would just sit at home and watch your event for free, and then you don't get your costs covered, and then you can't do any more events. And I like to think of the flip side of that, right? Where is the value of meeting face to face, right? And it is in meeting face to face. It's hanging out with your colleagues, hanging out with your friends, meeting them in person. I believe there is so much value in that if somebody or some group is willing to put in the money to put together a program that's instructional, educational, whatever you want to call it, and give you an opportunity to come and meet together in a place, the program is part of that, right? And being and learning something, and engaging and doing some professional development. But the bigger part of that, as I see it, is the community and strengthening the community and building your network and meeting people face. So in having, if you live streamed all of the content, you're not really losing. I don't feel like you're losing that much value because the people sitting at home watching the content are watching everybody else at the event actually being there, actually getting to have conversations, actually getting to have the hallway conversations, getting to have the chats, getting to hang out with folks over lunch and dinner and, activities that are going, hands-on activities. You can watch a live streamed hands-on activity, but do you get to use it? Do you get to do it by yourself and engage? Is it the same thing? I think it's a little different. I believe strongly in the drive to meet your colleagues face to face and spend that time to do it. So, it's a great question, Kim, and I appreciate you asking. It does bring that up, but the same thing applies to teams. I mean, it's funny. I've worked for a couple Silicon Valley startups now, and it's always funny how non-digitally savvy Silicon Valley startups seem to be. They try, and I give them all sorts of kudos. But lots of high-tech companies that I've either consulted with or worked with have a hard time making digital conversations work, and working with virtual employees. It's difficult. So, all right, Paul's got a question in the Q&A. Here we go. We found out if you put a question mark in the chat, It asks a question. Ah, good stuff. All right. Now I'm saying done answering. And yes, Joe, I can put you on camera. Hold on one second, my friend.
What are you doing down there? Flipping a switch or something? What is it? Ooh, going down there. I saw what you were doing there. Um, okay. I am. Hey, real quick, I just wanted to say,
Okay.
just before this call, I was on the phone with a client of mine who's in St. Louis, and he was throwing a lot of problems that they were having with their courses, and they wanted me to try to fix them for them. And sure, I've done it before for them as well, but I finally stopped him. I said, look, you're throwing so much at me here. There's no way I can really understand the full breadth of what your problems are. I suggest I come there and sit down with you guys for 2 days maybe and just go through everything together. And he goes, that's a really good idea. And so to me, sometimes there's nothing better than just sitting in the same room with them. Even if I could do it virtually like we're doing right now, it just doesn't work as well for me as sitting there. Maybe I'm just old school. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that sometimes it really does help. And I've known, who was it that was saying a few months ago that maybe it was just to me, but he flew to Australia from the United States for a 2-hour meeting and then flew right back. It's like, no, that's insane. But there are times when it really makes sense to sit in the same room with someone. And that's why, I just wanted to toss that out there. It's not always a good substitute to have virtual, but virtual works a lot of the time. That's all I wanted to say.
No, but it's perfect. Yeah, no, great ad for everybody to take into consideration, because it's human nature, right? It falls into all of those elements of it. And that relationship of being in a room together and being across from somebody face to face is just naturally has a stronger bond than us being here in a camera window next to each other. It is it's intriguing to me. Like, I wonder if anybody's done like any sort of research on what's the psychology behind that, right?
Oh, I'm sure there's a lot of research done on that. And look, you guys are doing a second in-person conference, and there's a reason we're doing it in person. If we could do it as easily virtually, we probably would. It would save a lot of money. But
yeah, and I think a lot of people are trying to do that, thinking, yeah, why even do it? Why do all that cost and try to do it? I think it's two different types of media, and it's a totally different vibe, and you have to do it differently. It's like it's like what Karen Hyder talks about, and other folks that are really into virtual training, for example, right? It's very different. Teaching a class or being an instructor in this type of environment is very, very, very different than teaching a class when you're in a classroom. Definitely. Right? And being able to, look out, even if you're looking out at a room full of 200 plus students, right, in an academic setting, you can still look around and you can make eye contact with everybody and wander around, and you can see if the group as a whole is tracking with you. You can change direction and all that kind of stuff. You can't really do the same in a virtual environment. And so you have to adjust and do things a little differently. So yeah,
there's all sorts of trials being done there, and I often point out to organizations or companies that that name that you come up with is not necessarily a real good one. It's going to be confusing for people, and almost always they've said, oh, no, nobody will be confused. And one of those examples of that is the Training Magazine conference that's held in the fall, which is going to be held in 2 weeks in New Orleans, and it's called the Online Training Conference, or Online Learning Conference, I think. And I'm like, that's not a good name. Everyone's going to think it's online. No, it's about online learning, but it's actually physically held. And yeah, but people are going to be confused. I have met so many people by now who said, oh, really? That's physically located somewhere? Yeah. Online learning conference. All right. So yeah, that's one example of several things I pointed out to people, like, that's going to be confusing for people.
Yeah, I'm coming back. We've been years of the irony of e-learning professionals trying to and doing conferences with the sage on the stage, right? An hour long of somebody standing up in front of the room talking about how you should be training people with e-learning and not doing the sage on the stage.
Exactly. And the best thing that not the best, actually, the most aggravating thing to me is when I go to a session at a conference and it's all about well, I'll give you an example. A lot of these conference titles are really misleading. And so, for example, I have a personal interest in Captivate. That's one of the tools I use the most. And I went to a conference, I think it was, I forget which one, but anyway, it was like how we use Captivate in the medical field. And I said, oh, great. So I went to session. Well, 45 minutes into that 1 hour session, they still hadn't shown any Captivate. They were just talking in a lot of PowerPoint about the thing. And I finally raised my hand. Are you going to show us something about Captivate? And he said, oh, no, we hadn't planned on that. I said, well, it says how we use Yeah, we did use Captivate. And it's like, well, that's why we're all here. You know, we don't want to know that you did. And it's like, oh. And another time, a personal friend of mine gave a presentation here in DC, and it was all about this new website they created for government. And I went to the session. Again, it was just all PowerPoint. And I finally said, are you going to show the website? And they're like, oh, would you be interested in that? Yes, we would be interested in seeing this website. Like, what? I don't understand how people sometimes they just think we just want us to go up there and see PowerPoint and let's skirt the issue and talk about it, but not actually see anything. You know, it's like, come on, really?
I know. It makes me think of how we came up with the name for what we're doing here, right? I mean, Luis and I talked about it for a really long time. We went with hundreds of different names, and what do we want to do? And back way before we even started thinking about TLDC 16 and what do we call it? And at the end of the day, we just decided we want to be very clear on what this is, right? And what is it? What are, who are the people that we support and what do they do? And really, and what are we talking about, whether it's online here or whether it's in a conference? Everybody does training. Everybody's learning and development. Those are the three words that people get that they've stood the test of time, right? E-learning is coming and going. M-learning is coming and going. Micro-learning has come, it will go. Everything, it all comes and goes. But training, it's stuck throughout all of the different technology changes. Learning and development is a corporate word that'll stick around for, a long time. We may at some point need to put performance in there, and we talked about that, but it's, that's, to me, that's kind of a given.
Exactly. I mean, that's the whole point of everything else is to.
Yeah. So however bland, TLDC is, at least it's extremely clear, right? It's very clear who we are, right? It's training, learning, and development. And, Sam doesn't like it because it's hard for him to sing when he's trying to do jingles for us. And so he wishes, it was easier, but.
I'm sorry that Tom Adams had to leave because I like to say this in front of him. But years ago, when Authorware was the property of Macromedia.
Yep.
The Macromedia user conference, which was held in San Francisco, typically at the Moscone Center, didn't really address Authorware very much at the time. It was, all about Flash and Photoshop and so on and so on. Well, so he decided to start his own conference and held it in Sundance in Utah. And I was the keynote speaker at that first conference. I was a big Authorware guy at the time. And Authorware 2 days in a row. And he called it the Alternative Authorware Conference, TAAC.
Yep, I remember that.
Okay, and that also spawned EuroTAC, TAC and then EuroTAC. And finally, and he sold it off to someone else, and then years later, he started the Authorware workshop, the Texas. He was living in Dallas, and all of us were kidding him all along the way. It's like, the Alternative Authorware Conference? No, it's the Tom Adams Authorware Conference, isn't it? Tom Adams, right? Tom Adams Workshop, isn't it? No. It's, but anyway, it's kind of a funny coincidence, but still. I mean, it was a conference where the first one had all of 37 people in Utah. Again, I was a keynote speaker. I arrived with bronchitis, and I ended up at what is it, 6,000 feet level there. And I ended up giving my talk and then being brought to immediate care because I couldn't breathe.
Oh my gosh.
It was funny. I survived, by the way, in case anyone's wondering. But it was a beautiful setting, and Macromedia was fit to be tied at first that he was doing this, but they finally relented and sent 6 of their engineers to the conference, which really helped a lot and to legitimize it. And then again, it lasted for many years after that. So.
Yeah, it's funny. Funny story. I believe it was a Macromedia conference that I went to where I actually saw Steve Jobs speak for the first time live. I think it was about the time that he had just come back to Apple. He had just either he come back or been about a year and they were 2, and they were ready to announce something new or something like that. But I remember at the time, Apple stock was like $15. And I remember turning to the woman who was sitting next to me and saying, now is going to be a really, really good time to invest in Apple. I've got an extremely good feeling about this.
Yeah.
And of course I didn't, but I was like, everybody probably should. Yeah. Bethany, no, I wish I had, but I was a starving post grad trying to raise a family on a shoestring budget, and
you and me both, and I'm still starving. So obviously not.
Story of everybody's lives, I know. Not a sad story by any stretch of the imagination. It's just I missed a golden opportunity, but the event was really cool.
Yeah, a lot of us need a lot of help in so many ways. When I was at that Macromedia conference one year, you remember how they would have these, I don't know if you don't call them docents, but the people who would check your badges when you come into the room, and they were hiring people out of university.
Oh, yeah.
And then those people got to attend or at least watch the conferences for free. And one of them, this young lady named Michelle, approached me and said, I heard your talk. I really would love to talk to you. My husband and I are starting up a business, and we'd love to talk to you. We live nearby. We'd come over for dinner. Okay. So I did. And they were in South San Francisco, in a little townhouse that was off the beaten path. And they were starting a graphic design business for e-learning. And when I started asking them, well, how are you going to advertise? How are you going to market yourself and so on? Oh, we're putting a shingle outside the door. And I'm like, that's not going to help. You're off the beaten path there. No one's going to see that shingle. Yeah, you're right. And we worked a lot. It became, friendly, and it worked out nicely. And then eventually they did pick off and were able to do some nice work. And that was in San Francisco. And then 18 years later, I think, it just so happens that she had moved here and saw me talk, and next thing you know, we're working together again. So it's nice. Really odd the relationships you get in this business sometimes. It's like old friends. You may not see them for a long time, but then bam, you're there, and hooking up again. So
yeah.
So that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to mention that.
No. It's always fantastic, right? So I'm also kind of just watching the chat go by, and I think we've lost everybody, so we must as well just turn everything off.
Yeah, you can toss me away now.
No, I just throw that out there, so it doesn't matter. I don't want to throw you away, Joe. You kidding me? People love hearing the chat. Yeah, right, Paul. Wait, what? There's 2 guys in the video window talking about something? What?
Well, Bethany, I did mention the team idea before, but mute us. That's a good idea.
Paul, you're on fire today, man.
The whole idea about teams, I've had more problems with client teams than anything else. There was when a client says to you, you're going to be part of our team, watch out, because that often means, you're not really part of the team. You're an outsider, and the people on the inside are the ones that are talking constantly, and then you're brought in only occasionally, right? And so you're thinking yourself part of the team, but then you're lacking in so much that's really going on because of that. I had a big project a few years ago that was not far from here in Rockville, Maryland, and I would go in for these meetings. There'd be 25 people around the room, and I would be the only one that was not, part of the company itself. But I was a project manager. I was the guy who was trying to get this project off the ground and working. And what was interesting and really frustrating to me was I would say, okay, we need to fasten this down. We have a question here. We need to decide what we're going to do with this. So I suggest that we do this. What do you all think? And I look around the room and nobody would be raising their hand, right? Or nobody would be responding. And then finally I'd have to call on somebody. And it felt weird because I was the outsider, and I would say, okay, Brent, what do you think about this? And Brent would say, well, I could see it going either way, but, hey, Susan, what do you think? And then Susan would say, yeah, I agree. It could go. What do you think, Tom? And then it was just like ping pong back and forth around the table. Nobody would ever want to take charge of anything.
Yep.
That's part of the problem when you're not part of an internal team. When you're an outsider bringing in, he's like, there's only so much you can do to wrestle people to the ground and get answers from them. So
yeah, that's part of the problem, I think, in a lot of situations where when you're an outsider coming in, and if there are no we got some echo going on here.
Oh,
maybe just turn down your speaker just a little bit if you can.
Sure, let me try that.
If there aren't like meeting standards in place and ways to run meetings, it's hard to figure out how to get into that groove and figure out how it is you're going to work well as a team, and I think Patty Shank was on as a guest last week, and she had a great point, some great tips on how can you tell if a client is going to be a good client for you, and if you're going to work well together, and if it's going to be worth your time. And after going through this sort of dating period with the client, right, being able to figure out this isn't going to work out, and being able to say we shouldn't work together because it's just not going to work out. But long way around this point is, I think, walking into a room in a team meeting, whether you're joining a team meeting for the first time virtually or joining a team meeting, face to face, is also a really good way for you to gauge if you think this is going to be successful or not. If there's some structure to the meeting, especially if you're on the outside and you're a new person coming in, if there's some structure to the meeting and that you function in, and that there's going to be, maybe the team is following up on things that they talked about the week before, and they know exactly what they need to follow up on, right? You're getting all of that as a consultant or somebody coming in to help. You can see that, oh, okay, I can see how they're going to be paying attention to me, and I'm not just going to fall off the grid. If the hour-long meeting just turns into we don't really know who owns this meeting or who should lead it or who should, what's happening, then it's like, might be a red flag, because it's teams like that without that structure, I think, that lead to that scope creep, right? You can be rest assured that just about anybody can walk into that meeting and say, hey, what about this? Hey, what about that? And they will be more than happy to go, yeah, what about that? And now you're the person sitting in the room going, oh, geez, here comes the scope creep, and no one's going to be willing to pay for it. And, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, there's a long way of saying it's engaging with teams for the first time is a great way to figure out if you actually want to work with them long-term.
Agreed.
And I'm trying to get Katie in here before we run out of time. We've only got about 10 minutes left. I'm trying to get in here. I'm trying to get you in. I'm sorry. I think maybe your connection might be too weak or something. I don't know. I've re-prompted you, so let's see if we can get you in.
See if maybe taking me off will help.
Nah, that's not. It's going to be bandwidth on her end, and taking you out doesn't change that at all. Okay. So, yeah, I used to kind of think that would do it, but can't you? You just want to get out of the video window, don't you?
I do. My hair is a mess. I swear, I get a haircut, it seems, and a week later, it's like this again. And I do shower, by the way.
It's the curse of fast growing hair, you know.
It's the curse of my particular family here, which is the hair turn is really straight,
Yeah.
but an inch later it suddenly starts curling like crazy. And when I was a teenager, I basically had an afro.
Oh my gosh, that would
Yeah.
be excellent. You're gonna have to show some pictures.
No, I shouldn't. I don't have to. Nobody can force me to show pictures. Nobody can. If you find my old high school yearbook, you can see it there, though.
Oh man, all right. Yeah. Well, all right, Katie, I am so sorry this isn't working. Again, I think what we've discovered is that it's low bandwidth on on one end. So I wish it was. I wish we could get you in here, but we're getting close to the top of the hour, anyways. So we should probably just start wrapping it up. I think. I know we kind of went off the rails a little bit, but today's team conversation is a good one. And like I've said before, I think it's something that we need to continue to have and talk more about how do we do this. Maybe just as we're approaching the top of the hour, right? What's the best tip you can give, Joe, when you're working on a team?
Asking me directly?
Yeah. What off the top of your head, if you had to give somebody a tip to work just a little bit better on a team, you know, what would that be?
Well, definitely, it's the number one thing I try to go for now is complete transparency in terms of communications. It's better to, first of all, if it's a virtual team, I always try to have a central page where everything is updated all the time. So anybody can go anytime they want, middle of the night, and know what's going on, right? But part of that is not leaving anyone out of the loop when that person might be able to make a real contribution. And I have been on the receiving end of that as a problem where people weren't telling me things. And then later I was finding out, in fact, just today at that same phone call I mentioned earlier, they mentioned the problem they were having. And I was like, did you know that there's an option to do that? And they were like, oh my God, if we had known that, it could have saved us weeks of work. And I'm like, yeah. And also when I teach my classes, I'll bring something up and I'll say, you could do this. This is one of those features in Captivate, Storyline, whatever. And they're like, oh, if only I'd known that. Communications to me, letting people know what's going on all the time, or as much as it makes sense to, is really important. That's all I'll say about that.
No, it's a fantastic point. And Trish echoes the communication is huge.
Yep.
My wife is the team mom for the swim team at our kids' high school, and she communicates like crazy. My wife is the epitome of the over communicator, and it just always makes me chuckle. It's angry. All up and say, I didn't get this information. I'm like, do you realize who you're talking to? You have no idea how much she's communicated all of this stuff. I don't even pay that much attention, and I get the Facebook posts and the emails and everything else, and I see all the notifications coming in. So, maybe you're just not connected, but it always happens, right? I mean, I don't think there is such a thing as over. I don't think you can, and I've actually tried in different new jobs where I kind of getting being a virtual employee, and so I would roll into the new gig or with the new client or whatever new project I was working on, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to over communicate, right? I'm going to drop a whole bunch of information all the time. I'm going to have a place to hold information and do that, and it is it's amazing. I've never had anybody complain. I've even jumped out and said, okay, listen, I'm going to over communicate with all of you, and if you ever feel like you're getting too much information, let me know and I'll cut back. I've never had anybody come to me and say, oh my God, yeah, you're sending out way too much information, Brent. Can you knock that off? And so I don't
Brent, you bring up an interesting point, and I'm wondering if there's a way that we as project managers, as clients, as vendors perhaps sometimes, we can do what is often done on websites when you subscribe to something, where you can indicate which kinds of communications you want. Because like you might have everybody on a team, but the manager only wants to know about these things, you know, and a manager can get really upset if he's getting constant, you know, technical issues coming into his box. He doesn't care about that. He cares about the final thing. Now, I'm wondering if there's a way to set that up easily on a, I never thought about that, but it could be useful.
It's an interesting point. And Katie says, yes, you can over communicate. And I'm not really too sure the details of what you're referring to there, but I think I kind of get where you're going with this, and I could be totally off base, but I think where over communication feels like over communication is if you are or have a micromanager, right? So that is requesting things too much under the guise of communication and wanting to know too much. I think that's very different than sharing valuable information or just sharing facts or sharing stuff, right? I think I think it's what you're communicating, how often you're. I love getting as much information as I could possibly get. I would love any CEO at any company that I've ever worked at to communicate more, and they never do, and they've never communicated. But I've had many times where I've wished that managers would communicate less. But I think that's to the same feeling that Katie's referring to. I think it's that management style versus communicating valuable information. I think there's a fine line to be had there. So I read that right, Kate, but that's kind of where my mind went with it. And we'll pick up those bandwidth issues and get you on here sometime. Joe, thanks for hanging out with me today and just chatting.
My pleasure.
You know, it's a small crowd today because it's an open forum day. I think, you know, not that many people enjoy hearing me just ramble on by myself. So it's so much more fun when you're here with me and I can have somebody to talk to. But how can people get a hold of you? This is let's get you some value here.
Well, Joe at elearningjoe.com, elearningjoe on Twitter, elearningjoe.com is my website. It's just elearningjoe.
And what can you do for people? Give us a pitch. Come on. If somebody's
come on, my friends. I've been in this business since 1983, 34 years. So
I know everybody should know, right? But maybe they don't. Maybe they're new to the Joe Show and they don't know what you can do for them. You know what?
Listen, I'm going to be giving a presentation at TLDC that I'm excited about because I am so sick and tired of so many problems in our industry that I'm hopefully, you know, doing my small part to try to change for the better. And anyone who wants to become a co-conspirator with me, I'm happy to discuss. So get hold of me. I'm putting together my grand plan here, trying to finish it this week. And then I'll be happy to share that with anyone who sees, who would like to be able to be on the cusp of trying to really disrupt this industry and make it, you know, work in a better way.
Awesome. Love it. So yeah, so reach out to Joe, hit him up and have that conversation. Hey, we've got a dozen people hanging out with us today that were willing to put up with you and I today. So I think all of these people, all dozen, get, you know, you guys all get brownie points, and we appreciate you guys hanging out today and enduring the ramblings on team day. So Joe, I appreciate it. Close your video out and we'll wrap it up for today.
Have a good day, everybody.
Yeah, good to see you. Oh, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out. You know, now everybody's dropping off already. How about if we all just say goodbye and let me just reiterate the fact that today, conversations like today really are what TLDChat is all about. Yes, everybody loves hanging out with a guest and it becomes unique and you get to meet an interesting person and there's networking that goes on. But, you know, these casual days where we just have conversations that go off the rails and we talk about crazy different things, you know, it's kind of what happens when you're hanging out at happy hour or in the office, and you know, conversations just go in weird ways all the time. So It's all good stuff, and that's the value that we're trying to add here. I hope you got at least one thing today. Maybe you started thinking about things a little bit differently. Maybe a link that somebody dropped in the chat window, triggered you to think of something different. So I hope that's all of value to you. Everybody have a great day. Yeah, thanks everybody's that's taken off. Appreciate it. 9:01. Everybody's got those 9 o'clock meetings you got to get to. So, by saying, don't forget to go to TLDC.us and become a member, and don't forget to sign up for the conference. And if you have any questions at all, hit any of us up offline, and you can follow me on Twitter at bschlenker, or you can just Google my name anywhere, or just go to tldc.us and you can find me there as well. So hope everybody has a great day. Tomorrow we've got a fantastic guest tomorrow as well. And then, of course, we have Video Friday. So, wow, the week is cruising by fast. So lots of fun and more to come. So everybody have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow.